Greetings and welcome to the very first video in this series on Exchange Server 2016. In this short video, I want to answer one simple fundamental question. What is Exchange Server? Now, that might at first seem like a weird question to ask. I mean, you're watching a video to learn about Exchange Server. Presumably, most of you probably already know what Exchange Server is. But the reason why I created this particular video is because way back in the 90s, I had a boss who sent me to a class to learn SQL Server. That's great, except I didn't know what SQL Server was going in, and nobody in the office had told me. So I walked into the class totally blind, not knowing what it was I was going to learn. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes out at the very beginning and address the question of what is Exchange? Well, Exchange has been described in one word by some, groupware. Now, groupware is kind of an antiquated term. You don't really hear it a lot these days, but it does have some meaning behind it. So let's talk about that for a second. Groupware could probably be described as collaboration software. Webipedia defines groupware as a class of software that helps groups of colleagues, or work groups, attached to a local area network to organize their activities. Simple enough. They go on to say that typically groupware supports the following operations: scheduling meetings and allocating resources, email, password protection for documents, telephone utilities, electronic newsletters, and file distribution. And that groupware is sometimes called workgroup productivity software. Now, the reason why I say that Exchange has sometimes been referred to as groupware is because even though Exchange is Microsoft's email platform, it does more than just allow users to send and receive email. It does have other capabilities. Now, some of those capabilities are scheduling related. Exchange Server supports calendars, and you can create appointments and organize meetings and that sort of thing. There's also some telephone functionality that's built in through a feature called Unified Messaging. So users can receive voice messages in their inboxes, and they can actually dial up Exchange on the phone and get their mail read to them verbally over the telephone through Unified Messaging. Now, Unified Messaging is kind of an advanced feature. We're not going to be going into it in this video series, but it is an Exchange Server feature. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is that the Webipedia definition of groupware doesn't completely apply to Exchange. Because if you look at this list, Exchange does support scheduling of meetings and allocating resources. It supports email, but password protection for documents, well, that's not really an Exchange function. Typically, if you're going to password protect a document, that's done outside of Exchange. And I talked about some of the telephone utilities, and Exchange isn't really designed for electronic newsletters or for file distribution. There are better utilities for that. But the point is that some people do refer to Exchange as groupware just because it does have capabilities beyond that of basic email. So what are the major Exchange Server capabilities? Well, email is the primary capability. That's the one thing that people really use Exchange for more than anything else. But as I mentioned, Exchange also has calendar and scheduling capabilities. It's got contact management, so you can organize all of your contacts, use it kind of like an electronic Rolodex. It's got a built-in task list. It supports mobile messaging and voicemail. So those are some of Exchange Server's core capabilities. Now, there are a million other capabilities that are built in. A lot of them are only on the administrative side, but Exchange is a very feature-rich product. So as we go throughout this video series, you're going to be learning about a lot of these. Now, there is one last concept that I want to talk about before I move on to some of the other videos, and that's the concept of client versus server. Now, this is a super simple concept, and it's something that the other videos are going to assume that you know, but I wanted to take just a second and address it. So Exchange Server refers to the server that delivers all of the capabilities that you saw on the previous slide. These capabilities and many others. Now, when users connect to Exchange Server, they're actually attaching to an Exchange Server mailbox, and they do that by using a mailbox client. Now, there is a client that's built into Exchange Server. It used to be called Outlook Web App. Today it's called Outlook on the Web. There's also Outlook Voice Access that's part of Unified Messaging. But you don't have to use clients that are built into Exchange. There are loads of external clients. There are ActiveSync clients. Those are the clients that are built into mobile devices such as smartphones or tablets. There's Microsoft Office Outlook. That's probably the best client out there for Exchange Server. And there are a few third-party options as well. So the point is that users are going to need a client component to be able to connect to Exchange. They can use a client component that's built into Exchange, or they can use one of these external clients. But either way, the client is what the user interacts with. The server is the software that houses the user's mailboxes. So that's just a really quick introduction of what Exchange Server is and what some of its features and capabilities are. So from there, I'm going to move forward with the other videos in this lesson and give you a better understanding of Exchange Server and its capabilities.